started. Seeing as we only have an hour and we want to make this very engaging for you all, let's dive right in. So, welcome everyone to the Pioneers Online Learning Lab. We're delighted to have you all joining us here this afternoon. To quickly introduce myself, my name is Michaela and I work for the team here at Pioneers. And before we get started and dive into the content, we want to just go through some really quick Zoom technical information with you all so that we can really maximize our engagement in today's workshop. So, first of all, as you know, the webinar today is on social entrepreneurship, and we're going to be exploring a lot of different topics within this theme. So I'm sure that as we go, you're going to have a lot of questions and maybe some insights that you would like to share with the group. And we would absolutely love you to get involved. And to do that, what we would like you to do is please to put all your questions into the chat box within Zoom. To do that, it's really easy. You just scroll down to the bottom of your screen and you simply click the chat button. The window will open and you can type away. For example, I just typed hello. So yeah, feel free to reply to that if you like. But that is really there for you to use, and we will come back to answer those questions at the end of the session. You can also keep your questions in your head or write them down, and we can then discuss them at the end of the session too. We've kept a full 20 minutes to do a nice group discussion at the end. We really want you to get the most out of this experience and for you to engage with us, and so that we can help and provide you with some of our insights as well. We'll also be using some of the cool tech features that Zoom has in the feature itself. So for example, if you go down again and look at the tab, you'll see a button that says reaction. And if you click on the reaction, you're presented with two options. The first option is a clap and the second option is a thumbs up. And we're going to be using them as well to see how you're engaging with some of the content. So keep them handy and remember to use them when we ask you to. We'll also be asking one poll question throughout the webinar that will pop up on your screen, and we'll let you know when that is coming. And we ask you to please get involved and provide your answers. It's a really great way for you to engage in our content directly. And last but not least, just to make you all aware, this session is being recorded, but don't worry for all you camera shy people, it's only the speakers and the content itself that's actually going to be recorded. So you're all safe. So now we've got the technicalities out of the way, let's actually try to get to know each other a bit better. With being in a virtual format, that's obviously more challenging than normal, but we're going to use the chat function so that we can start to introduce each other. One point to note about these webinars is that the Pioneers Online Learning Lab is very much tailored to a corporate innovation audience. And so we're really excited to be joined by some really innovative and cool companies in these webinars. And so this is a perfect chance for us to see who we've got in the room today. So what I would like you all to do right now is please open up your chat box, and I want you to simply type in your name and the company that you're from and send that into the chat. And I'm going to give you 10 seconds starting now to do that. So insert your name and your company and let us know where you're all from. We've got 5 seconds to go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow, we've got a lot coming in here. Brilliant. So let's start at the top. Warm welcome to Bas from Aegon. Lovely to have you here. Nice to have a corporate from our own network involved in today's webinar. We've also got City of Vienna, Matthias, welcome. Lovely to have someone from our hometown here as well. I noticed that Dudu's in the room as well from Vienna Business Agency. Dudu, how's it going? Nice to see you here. We've also got Tina, we've got Max, we've got Manfred from Wienerlingen, we've got Abresha, we've got Christian Strasser from HomeVote. We've got, wow, we've got a lot of people here. I'm sure you're all scrolling through the chat with me. You can see who we've got in the room. Perhaps already you maybe know some people we've got in the room, or you've maybe worked together in the past. That's what makes these webinars so exciting. Brilliant. So now you all know a bit more about each other and we know who we've got in the room today. It would be rude to not actually introduce ourselves. So as I said earlier, my name is Michaela. I'm an innovation consultant here at Pioneers. I am from Scotland, which is why I have a very weird accent. And I actually have 5 years experience working in a social enterprise startup. So I'm really excited to share some of my passion and my insights with you all today. I'm also joined by my lovely colleague, who I'm going to let introduce herself to you all now.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Michaela. Unfortunately, I don't really have this really nice Scottish accent, but if you would hear me talking in German, you might notice that I have a little bit of a Styrian accent. So much about my origin. Two more sentences about me. I'm working at Pioneers as an innovation consultant as well for about 2 years now, mainly creating and facilitating innovation programs through design sprints and rapid prototyping formats with both entrepreneurs and startups. Before that, I was also working in a startup in the, let's say, food industry. And yeah, I'm really passionate about the topic of sustainability and social entrepreneurship as well. And I really believe that we can only make the world a better place if we combine social value and also financial value. So yeah, having said that, I would like to hand over again to Michaela.
Brilliant. Thank you, Verena. So now you know us and you know what the topic is about today. Let's have a really quick look at the agenda. So we're going to start by looking at some definitions. We're then going to go in and look at social business models and how that fits in alongside traditional business. We're then going to bring that all to life through some examples. Verena's then going to take you through the sustainability aspect of social entrepreneurship and also introduce you to some really cool social business models. I'll then finish up with some ideation tools that you can actually take back into your job roles and use with your teams to ideate and come up with some really cool socially innovative ideas. And as I said, at the end, we're going to have that full 15 to 20 minutes for some really nice open discussion. So let's get started. When it comes to social entrepreneurship, I am sure it's a topic that a lot of you have probably heard about before. You maybe already have quite a lot of knowledge in this particular topic. But one thing I always notice whenever people talk to me about it is there's a lot of buzzwords out there and a lot of different definitions. So what we always like to do is start off by sharing our top 3 terms, if you like. And we think these are really important for helping to set the scene of social entrepreneurship, particularly in a corporate context. So these 3 definitions are social entrepreneurship itself, social innovation, and social impact. So if we dive straight in to social entrepreneurship, what we mean by that is basically an entrepreneur that combines entrepreneurial activity with a social purpose. And we have a really great example of a social entrepreneur on this slide. And I'm going to now dive straight in and use the reaction button within Zoom. So I would like you all to click on the reaction button and use the thumbs up if you know who that man is. So please do click on the button now and I'll do a quick poll. 1, okay, 2, 3. So Dudu, Michael and Verena are the only ones who know who this man is. So for the rest of you who don't know who this is Muhammad Yunus. Now, he is viewed as one of the founding fathers of social entrepreneurship. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner and an all-round amazing guy. And he actually created the term of microfinance, which is basically a form of banking for the poor. He helped to lift so many people out of poverty through providing them access to credit. And actually, he taught them how to lift themselves out of poverty sustainably. And so we love using him as an example of a really cool social entrepreneur. If you have the time, I would highly encourage you to look him up. He has some amazing books on social entrepreneurship, and he's just an all-round amazing guy. And he's from India. Then let's dive straight into the second definition, which is social innovation. And this is very relatable, especially in a corporate context. Social innovation is basically innovation, but with a social twist. So, it's using that innovation mindset to create solutions to environmental and social issues. And this picture here is what we really like to use to demonstrate the impact that social innovation can have. Now, I'm sure most of you know that brand of trainer. It is Adidas. And it's sitting on top of some plastic waste, and you might be thinking, why is it on top of some plastic? Well, actually, Adidas partnered with a company called Parley, and they're all about reducing plastic pollution in the sea. And so Adidas got a light bulb moment and said, let's make our trainers out of some of the plastic pollution so that one, we can help to reduce the problem, and two, we can also raise awareness of the problem. I mean, that to me is a perfect example of corporate social innovation. They took the expertise and the resources they already had and just created a new way of doing what they were already doing. So that's a really nice example of social innovation and just shows what is possible, especially in a corporate context. And then last but not least, we've got social impact. And we love this definition. It comes from Babson College, who are the world's top school for entrepreneurship, based in Boston in the US. And it's safe to say they know what they're talking about. And they like to define social impact as when you put that socially innovative mindset into action towards any of the sustainable development goals. Now, again, we're going to ask you to use the reaction button, and I would like you to do the clapping button if you know what the Sustainable Development Goals are. So if you could all please react now. Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, I would say that's a good 80% of people in the room know what the global goals are, which is always a positive response. But for anyone who doesn't know what the global goals are, they're essentially 17 goals that come from the United Nations as a call to action for everyone. So people, businesses, government to come together to work and solve these 17 problems on a global context. And it's a really great way to look at how you can be socially innovative. It covers so many themes and topics, for example, poverty, all the way to climate action, to life below water. It really does cover such a wide variety. And it's an amazing opportunity, especially as a corporate, to look at these 17 goals and see where you could actually go in and tackle some of them. So now you know what the key definitions are, let's have a look at why this is actually then important when it comes to corporates. So why should you as a company even care about social impact? Whenever I'm asked that question, I like to come back with these 2 points. The first point comes from Larry Fink, who is a CEO of a company called BlackRock. It's a global financial management firm. And he came out last year with this actually quite inspiring and quite hard-hitting letter to fellow CEOs all over the world. And he basically was telling everyone that they need to stop and listen. You know, it's time is changing and business as usual is not going to work any longer. It's time that businesses look at the resources they have and see how they can actually come together to create positive change, both with the people that they hire as their employees, the people in their communities, people all over the world, and also the environment. And he claims, and I must admit, there's a lot of research to back up what he's saying, that purpose is the engine to long-term profitability. And so, you know, his letter really does set out in a very nice way why social impact is important. I would highly encourage you to read that letter if you have time. You just can type his name into Google and up it comes. In addition, the statistic here on the right-hand side really does speak for itself. And this just shows the value that can be captured through addressing social impact. More than $12 trillion worth of saving and revenues is expected in the next 10 years as a result of the SDGs. So, you know, imagine as a corporate the value that you can capture just by being more socially innovative. It really is an exciting time. And it's the time now to get involved with this immense value that we can all add. So taking that now a step further, let's look at where this actually all fits in terms of traditional business models. And when we try to explain this, we like to use an academic model called the business model spectrum. And what this really nicely shows is all the different types of business models you can have and how you can add social value in amongst them. And one important point to note about this model is that anyone can be socially innovative. Whether you work in a charity or in a profit-making business, you can be socially innovative. This model, though, just really helps to show the different models you can use depending on the social goals you want to achieve. So you'll see on the far left-hand side, it starts with your traditional charities. Charities are all about driving impact and creating positive change. Then on the far right-hand side, you can see it's all about traditional enterprise. They're out there to make money. And then in between both of these two extremes is the social business models that you can have. And this is where things get quite exciting and interesting. As social business has grown over the last years in popularity, this model has been revised, and it now looks a little bit like this. And as you can see, there's a lot more detail now in it. And the area I would really like to focus on here is the grey box area. And I think this just highlights the different types of social value you can add depending on the model you have. And if we look at the first green dot where my mouse is, you can see it's a self-sustaining social business. Now that's merging more towards your charity side of the model. So, they might still be relying on donations in order to keep up with their impact, but also they actually have more than 15% earned revenue. So they're showing they can also be a more sustainable business. Next to that, we have what's right in the middle of the spectrum, a social enterprise. Now, they're the perfect example of balancing both the social and the financial return. They create a product or service, and the profit that's made from that product or service is fully reinvested into their social mission. Now, you might think, wow, that seems quite extreme. How is that possible? It is a tough business model, and it takes a while to get to that profitability level, but it is possible. And we're going to share some really cool examples with you. Next to that, we've got your mission driven for corporate enterprise. And you may have heard of this new term called a B corporation. And that's a really popular term, particularly in the corporate world just now. And all it basically means is that you are a responsible business. You treat your staff fairly, all the way through to your supply chain, all the way through to the impact you have in your communities and on a global level. And to get that accreditation, you actually have to take a test, and you also have to pay for it. So, it is a current kind of area under research, if you like, and a lot of companies are now moving more towards that mission-driven approach in a bid to become more socially aware to their consumers and also as a business. Interestingly, to the right of that in the yellow box is your kind of standard corporate CSR and philanthropy area. And probably a lot of you in the chat and your companies are already doing amazing work in this area. Maybe you donate to charities, or maybe you allow your employees to have volunteering hours. Whatever you're doing in that area is already creating positive change. But one thing I think we're going to see in the next 10 years is a lot of these corporates in this yellow area are slowly going to be moving into that mission-driven for-profit enterprise. And I think that's a huge shift that we can expect to see coming in the next few years as companies step up and use the resources to make more positive impact. So as I said, that's just a really nice model that shows where social entrepreneurship can fit and the different models that can be used to create a social business. So now I've talked my legs off to you all. It's time to share some nice examples so we can really bring this to life for you. The first example we have is our very own example from here in Vienna. If you didn't know, Pioneers are based here in Vienna in Austria. And this is a really cool startup called Markta, and they are all about sustainability. They basically help to connect local producers with consumers. So they're helping small businesses like farmers to connect them to communities where they can buy the produce in a sustainable way. The packaging is sustainable, the produce is sustainable. It's a really nice message. They're actually one of the startups in our partner company, Conda. It's a crowd investing arm of Startup 300, the group we're part of. So if you'd like to know more information on Markta, let us know. We know them very, very well. Next example is Tom's. You've probably maybe heard of this brand, and they use a buy one, give one model. And what that basically means is they sell shoes, and whenever you buy a pair of those shoes, you then are actually giving a pair of shoes for free to a child in need in somewhere in a poor country in the world. And it's a really simple model and a really simple way to sell directly to consumers because you're having that direct impact with your product or service. They're actually now branching into eyewear and different services. So it shows there's so much opportunity to really branch out from your traditional first product or service when it comes to social businesses. The next example is personally one of my favorite. I think it's genius, absolutely genius. These guys are called Toast. They're based in the UK in London, and they basically take unsold bread, so bread that would go in the bin, and they turn it into beer. They then give 100% of the profits that they make to food fighting charities in the UK. So they are what you call a social enterprise because 100% of the profits are reinvested back into the business. And to me, it's just genius, you know. And the beer tastes awesome. I've had it. So if you would like to try it, I'm sure they ship internationally. You can check out their website. Then last example, we thought we'd bring an example that's more relevant to today, and also a corporate example. This is what's known as the Dyson ventilator. Now, you probably all know Dyson, who are famous for their vacuum cleaners, but actually in response to COVID-19, they have now created a Dyson ventilator. And that is an epitome of social innovation, especially during such a challenging time that's being faced by us all today. And they've actually donated nearly 10,000 of those machines to help with the corona crisis. So now you've got a nice overview of definitions, you know a bit more about why it's important in the corporate context. Verena's going to take you through the sustainability lens of social entrepreneurship and look at some business models with you. So I'm going to hand you over to her now.
Thank you so much, Michaela. And a warm welcome again from my side. So we now already heard a lot about what's the social entrepreneurship, what's social innovation, and what are different approaches company have to tackle that. Michaela, would you go to the next slide, please?
Yep.
Because then I would actually show some numbers. Thank you so much. So why is it actually important to all of us? We covered a little bit of that already, but here are some more statistics and some more numbers that really underline why social innovation and social impact, but also sustainability is super important to all of us. So on the one side, for example, if you take a look at CSR strategies, they really can increase the revenue of corporates by about like 20%, which is amazing. Also, taking a look at CSR programs, they're more and more embedded in corporate strategies. At least that's what like 64% of CEOs say. And we also see a shift of investments going more into the direction of impactful investments and of like supporting projects and companies that are sustainable. So here we're talking about a volume of like $502 billion. And what else we see in the market is that there is a huge shift on the like people spectrum. Let's say employees, especially millennials, would rather work for responsible companies compared to like less responsible companies. And also this mindset change is going on in the consumers' heads. So according to the numbers we found here from Ipsos Mori, for 84% of consumers actually prefer companies to do more for society. So here this already shows quite good where we are heading towards and why social impact and sustainability is so important for companies, as it just offers an immense value across various dimensions. But most importantly, and that's like a thing I would really like to share with you and like to give you on the way, is that addressing social issues is a huge opportunity. And to say in the words of Michael Porter, which was one of the most famous and most well-known economists, and also, let's say, the father of corporate strategy, I would say, he says that addressing social issues is in fact the biggest business opportunity out there. So in this context, he's talking a lot about shared value. And the principle of shared value means that companies are addressing social issues with a business model. So here the important point is that we're not only addressing social issues, but we also try to make money out of it. So companies try to create new and innovative ways to meet important needs, and not only to meet needs people have out there. So there's really the big difference, that it's important that there's a purpose behind it. And in this way, we can really create a social and an economic value simultaneously. So the key message is that we can only solve those fundamental problems if we create a profitable business models around those problems. So the most obvious question we have to ask ourselves, and the most crucial question is, of course, how are we going to create a sustainable social business? Because we already heard a lot about companies that are doing that, and they're already like really good in making money and making a social impact, but it's still super critical to really make a business financially sustainable. So when we're talking about business models, I guess most of you have a clear idea in your head what business models are. So it basically describes the way inputs are converted into outcomes. And we're not only looking at how does your company make money, but we're also looking at the other side, like how do you really create a measurable impact? And this is sometimes called the double bottom line. If we take a step further, and if we're taking a look at people, planet, and profit, then this is even the triple bottom line. But for now, we're focusing on social and economic value. So here, to make it a little bit more tangible, as we're talking a lot about business models already, we brought 9 most common social business models with us today. Those are based on academic research. You can also look them up. And yeah, in order to make the most, or in order to ensure that you get the most out of it, we would now like you to participate in our poll and tell us which business model you would like to learn more about. So I will activate the poll in a second. Now you should all be able to see a poll on your Zoom screen. In case somebody doesn't see it, please let us know in the chat. If you do see it, then you have 10 seconds now to choose the business model you want to know more about. Of course, if you have questions regarding other business models, just let us know in the chat, or also write us an email or contact us at the end of the session. We're always happy to answer the questions. Okay, so we have 5 more seconds. There's a lot going on. It's quite equal. Okay. A lot of voting. Okay, now it looks as everybody has already voted. Perfect. Okay, so the poll is ended. You will now see the results. And we have to choose 3 topics we want to cover. Unfortunately, a lot of them are quite equal. So I will try to choose 3 ones that are most, let's say, different. So here we have the cooperative model, the fee for a service model, and then let's just take the low income as a low income client as a market model. Yeah, then we have the 3 just after each other. All right, thank you so much for participating. Let's start with this one. Perfect. Thank you for choosing the right slide, Michaela. All right. So when talking about the business model fee for a service, it's really important to see that it usually includes more than only one target group, and usually the social enterprises commercializes its services. And the services are either offered then to the target customer or to the third-party provider or third-party payer. But important is that the customers and the beneficiaries don't really have to be the same group. This business model is actually most commonly used in the social enterprise area, especially for universities and also for healthcare institutions. But one really nice example, funnily, this is the same example we had before already, is the Tom's Shoes example. As Michaela already explained, they have this really nice 1-for-1 model. So for each pair of shoes that you buy, a kid in need gets one for free. Exactly. But let's jump right into the second model we were choosing before. All right. So low income client as a market is also a really interesting social business model out there, because in this case, companies are directly selling to the beneficiaries. In this case, beneficiaries are low income client groups. The fees are usually quite low. And also typical examples are healthcare or utility services such as electricity or water, basically things everybody should have access to. But unfortunately, it's not like that. And one really nice example I would like to share with you is a startup we were supporting last year, and they are called Test Financial Services. They're a startup from Pakistan, and they basically provide a smartphone application that enables users to get instant cash or microcredits within just a few minutes. And the goal here is really to give underbanked or unbanked people in Pakistan access to financial services. So now from our point of view, I would say, well, we all have banks, why is that needed? But in fact, in Pakistan, around 100 million of people do not have access to financial services and therefore count to the group of unbanked or underbanked. And the founder, Noreen Hyatt, is really, really ambitious, and she's also really underlining that she's not a charity, she's a social business. So she's combining social value and also an economic value. And she's also convinced that the most sustainable mechanism, so the one which really has a long-term impact on reducing poverty in the countryside, for example, is by economic empowerment. And through this application, through this solution, she's giving people the chance to be economically empowered. So that's a really cool mission. Really like that started as well. All right, so let's take a look at the cooperative model. This is also quite common in Austria because the cooperative model is called Genossenschaft in Austria. And for example, we're having a lot of those cooperatives that are providing affordable housing for their members. So we're talking about the business model itself. It's basically a group of people that are part of this, let's say, of this corporation, kind of. And the cooperation provides their members with benefits through collective services. So usually members have common interests or common needs, or they are either stakeholders and investors. Typical cooperative movements are including farmers or craftsmen or shopkeepers, also consumers. And basically this gives companies, smaller companies or smaller, let's say, groups of stakeholders the chance to balance out disadvantages of small businesses, to have like a bigger stake on the market and a bigger say. And one really cool example for this is the Consumer Cooperative Co-op in UK. And they have a really, really broad diversity of retail businesses joining in their cooperative. So they have, for example, food retail and wholesale, but they also have e-pharmacies, their insurance services, legal services, also funeral care. So they have like a lot of different companies in their cooperative, and they're all like benefiting from each other. All right, I think those were the the 3 examples we wanted to show out of the 9. In case you're interested into one of the others, please do let me know. And yeah, we can have a chat about that later. So now we want to take a look about how can we actually measure social impact. That's really important to, on the one side, to gain clear insights, but on the other side also to strengthen the business model and also to convince others to follow. Here there is a little bit of the problem that SDG washing is kind of a prominent buzzword in this context. So it's really, I just saw the poll again, sorry for interruption. So it's really important to not only, show that you're doing something, but be really specific on it. But I will come back to that later. So how can you actually do better? When talking about measuring social business model, the social business model success, basically, it's quite obvious that on the one side, we have to measure the financial performance. So the financial side of things, basically the return on investment. But on the other side, what social enterprises do a lot is they're also measuring the impact they have on producers, consumers, the industry, the world, everything which is where they're giving back, basically. And this social return on investment basically shows how effectively they can use capital to create a social value. And in this sense, it's really important to have a good balance. So balancing both return on investments is basically key for social business model success. And in order to do that, they have to set up a principles of measurement. It choose the most important indicators for that. And when talking about indicators, there are 3 really important questions we have to ask ourselves. So the 3 essential questions are on the first, who or what is going to benefit? So do we impact workers, kids, the environment, wildlife? Where exactly are we focusing on? Then also, how many people are benefiting? So really make sure to have numbers that outline the importance of your mission. Then we also want to take a look at how are they going to benefit. So really try to capture your efforts in the concrete, on the concrete outcomes and not only on activities. So here it's really important to not only say, okay, we are for example, donating money to a charity that takes care of children, but rather say, how do we actually manage to influence or to make the life better? Do they have food every day? Do they live in a safe environment? Do they get better education? This kind of stuff. So where is actually the impact that matters? So we brought 3 examples for you today. As I see that we're already running a little bit out of time because we have so much to share, I would just go over it quite quickly. So the first example is Veja shoes. It's kind of a big thing in the startup world. It's a sustainable sneaker brand, basically. And they're really nicely show on their website how much they're paying extra for organic cotton, how much they're paying extra for the monthly salary of their employees. The last point is a little bit confusing in my point of view, because what do they want to show, or what do they want to tell us by outlining that 1 out of 4 models is vegan? I don't know. So here maybe they can work a little bit on communication, but apart from that, it's really nicely outlined where they're making impact. Then the second example is something which either was part of our childhood or also part of the childhood of your kids. So Lego is definitely a huge company out there, and they have a huge impact, especially on children. They also started in the last few years to build more and more a bigger variety of initiatives to really have a positive and impact as well. So they have, for example, a play day. They have a program that teaches kids to play safe online, and a lot more things. What they really nicely summarize here on their website is the increased number of kids they are able to reach. But the thing is, we don't really know which impact they had on the lives of the kids. So this is exactly what I meant before. There's a number, but we can't really do something with this number. They explain a little bit better in the narratives and the stories they have done on their website, but this is just the first thing I see, and it's not really clear. Then we have the third example, which is Tony Chocolonely, a super nice example for sustainable and great chocolate brand. Their vision is to have 100% slave-free chocolate, and they really show nice how they are impacting the life of farmers, how they have built up their value chain, and they try to combine numbers and a narrative to have the best of both worlds, let's say it like that. And yeah, this is the first example I wanted to share with you. So the top tips we have for you when talking about measuring social impact is, first of all, keep it simple. Make it really understandable for everybody out there. Make it simple and straight. Measure the report, measure what actually are the outcomes of your activities, and also be really clear on your assumptions. So in this context, it's very helpful to use frameworks such as this SDGs, but also do not say, okay, we're tackling, I don't know, SDG number whatsoever, education, because education has alone 10 different targets you can tackle. So be specific on what exactly do you want to solve, which SDG and which target of the SDGs are you going to address. So here you can actually be more transparent and credible by doing that. Then it's really important to also use baseline and control data. We saw that very nicely at the Veja example. So here it's important to show what are others paying, what is the market data, what's government statistics. So where are we actually creating an impact here? Yeah, so there was a lot of talking from my side. So now I would like to hand over again to Michaela, and she will show us how we can put that into a framework that helps us to develop basically social impact.
Thank you, Verena. Perfect. So now we've got so much social innovation and entrepreneurship and sustainability knowledge. Let's look at some tools that you can actually use to take maybe ideas you've got internally with your team, or maybe an idea you've got yourself, to take it to that next level and really work it through. And we have 4 tools we're going to share with you today. The first one is the Impact Canvas, and that's basically based on the traditional theory of change model. And what it does is it enables you to connect your strategy to your mission. And with this model, you actually start completing it from point number 5 down to point number 1. And the reason that you do that is because you always have to start with your mission. What is it you're actually trying to achieve? What is the impact you're trying to create? And from there, you can really make sure that the rest of what you're doing really aligns to that overall mission. And I'll come back to that later in one of our other models that we're going to show you. The next model we've got to show is a take on the business model canvas, which I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with. And it's just got a nice social twist to it. It's a social business model canvas. With this one, we recommend you start by filling out the value and the market sections first. And what this basically does is provide a very nice way for you to see if your idea is going to be plausible or not. And just one point on these tools, we will be sharing some of these with you at the end of the session. So if there's any that are very interesting to you, please do let me know and we can see what we can do there. The third model is none other than the SDGs themselves. What better way to be socially innovative than use this as some inspiration? And to Verena's point, when it comes to the SDGs, you really should try and focus on one or two of the SDGs you know you can tackle. For example, if you're a water bottle company, you might want to focus on SDG number 6, which is all about clean water and sanitation. You know, you've got expertise and resources in that area, so it might make sense for you to look at how you can address problems on a social level in that particular goal. So we recommend stick to what you know and go with what you can make the most impact with. No one's expecting you to cover all 17. And then last but not least, we wanted to finish with a bit of food for thought for everyone. You know, with the current crisis we're all facing through COVID-19, it's presenting us all with a lot of challenges, but it's also presenting us all with a lot of opportunity to be more innovative and to create positive solutions to these challenges. And, you know, here are 6 of the shifts that we can expect to see in the next few months in terms of consumer behaviour. So you as a business, how can you step up now and pivot with these shifts? But not only that, how could you actually add a positive social impact lens to it as well? And that was really a message we wanted to finish our session on today, was to let you take that away, go back to your teams, you know, really think about that deeply and have a think about how you as a business can really stand up during these difficult times and respond with some really socially impactful ideas. So that now brings the main content to an end. I'm going to quickly pass to Verena, who's going to go through her top 3 tips. After that, we're opening the floor for questions and we're excited to get engaged with you all. So yeah, back to Verena.
Okay, so the 3 top tips we want to share with you are: you need to make money to be sustainable, because if you don't make money, you can't even have your social impact. So that's the rule number 1. Also, make sure to have a clear business model and really outline how you're going to make money and what's going to make your money. And then second of all, make sure you know how to measure your impact. We've now covered a lot about the topic of measuring impact. Of course, we could go much deeper here. There are also companies and tools out there which help you measuring your impact and setting up these impact measurement systems. So here it's really important to make sure you have a clear measurement system, because people will ask. The first thing people are doing with social businesses and social enterprises is asking them, hey, where's your impact actually? And how can you show that you're doing a better job than all the other companies out there? So be sure that you're very focused on that point as well. And then, of course, focus on your why. Why are you doing this? Where is your, you know, what drives you? Where is your passion? Where is your mission? And why are you really pursuing this this mission to help people? So here it's very important to have a clear purpose and a clear focus on your why as well. All right, that's, I think, everything from our, let's call it content part. So now we're super happy to discuss with you about all the questions you have, all the questions that were popping up during the webinar. Also, please just raise your hand and we're going to unmute you, and then we're super happy to have an open discussion.
Perfect. So I'm just taking a look through the chat box just now to see if we've got any questions in there. So also, if you would like to ask a question, you can click the reaction button and press the clap, and we can then unmute you so that you can ask a question. So if that's something you want to do as well, speak out, then please put the clapping reaction now. Okay, Let's take a look, see if anyone's coming up.
I think I just saw one.
Yeah.
No, it disappeared.
Perfect. So can you elaborate
Here
how, yeah. So I see a question that's come in here from Aga Hamza, and he's asking, can you elaborate on how Pioneers is working towards social entrepreneurship? Absolutely. You know, this is a topic that you can probably see from Verena and I's reaction, we're very passionate about, and it is something we're continually working towards and looking at how we can be more impactful in the work we do. By our very nature, we support entrepreneurs. You know, we have a whole host of services that we provide to entrepreneurs, whether it be crowd investing platforms, startup support services, connecting them to corporates. We're all about that collaboration and supporting entrepreneurs to create more sustainable and innovative ideas for the future. So for us, it is an area we already, I would say, are kind of in, but as a corporate company, we're also looking at ways we can continually expand on this. And we actually just held an ideation session on it last week. And I'm not going to give away any of our secrets yet. Just stay tuned for what is to come. I don't know if Verena, you've got anything else to add there.
You said it so nicely. I cannot add anything. But we're super exciting about everything, about all the projects we have in our head, and about kicking off the next projects in this area.
Perfect. From Dudu, we also have a question. What's your perception in terms of corporate innovation and social responsibility? How much is that a topic within big corporates? I'm happy to answer that one first, Verena, and then pass back to you. So from my perspective, I obviously come from a UK background of social enterprise, and that market is very much evolved in terms of social entrepreneurship. We have a lot of regulation in place in terms of what rules you have to follow to be qualified as a social enterprise, and as a result I feel like the market in the UK is a bit further ahead, and along with that, corporates seem to be a bit more engaged with CSR, corporate social responsibility, and creating social innovation. So I think at the moment it's still a topic that needs to be really picked up and addressed further. It's not been done enough, if you ask me. I think the value in the statistics and the research speaks for itself. And as I said earlier, I really do think in the next 10 years, we're going to see a huge growth in this area. And there's no time like now to really have a look at it and see how you as a corporate can step up. I mean, every day you see examples of new corporate social innovation coming out. As I mentioned, that letter from Larry Fink really caused quite a shake in the community. And these things are happening more and more. And I think that's just going to keep coming and coming as social entrepreneurship grows.
Absolutely. Can only underline that statement. What I would also really recommend you to watch is the TED Talk of Michael Porter on the topic of shared value. We also put this into the link section of the slides. It's really insightful, the way how he explains why actually companies and especially corporations are the ones that really have to make sure that they're like tackling social issues. Because as I said before, this is like a really huge also business opportunity, and it's also the only way that we can scale to on a global basis, basically. Oh wow, now we have a lot of questions here.
Yeah, there's loads coming in now. This is great.
How do you see the Austrian social innovation ecosystem in terms of size, impact, and relevance? Well, I think we have quite a few really cool initiatives already in Austria. I mean, alone what the Impact Hub is doing, we have the Social Impact Award as well. So there are quite a few really cool initiatives all over Austria. I also know that there are some initiatives in Graz or in Salzburg. More and more companies are also tackling the topic of social innovation. So I think it's definitely growing. I mean, as Austria is always kind of a small country, maybe it's not the biggest social impact market on the world. As Michaela already said, there's a lot going on in the UK, for example. More and more companies are especially getting certified as P corporations. Here, that's one thing we still have to work a little bit on in Austria. But yeah, perfect. Here's an overview of the key actors we have in the Austrian ecosystem. So you can see here on the slide that it's already like a long list of companies and corporations and different kind of institutions that are tackling social innovation and social impact. Maybe let's move to the next question.
Yeah, the next question I see is, the benefits that you give as a social enterprise, do they need to relate to your product or not? For example, could Tom's Shoes also plant trees instead of giving shoes to poor people? I met quite a few social entrepreneurs throughout my time being in a social enterprise, and the one piece of advice they always gave was stick to your social mission, make it relevant, make it align. As I mentioned earlier, you know, if you're a water bottle company, then there's no point in you giving profits to help fight, for example, wildlife conservation. You know, you're a water bottle company, look at what you can do in your own area and keep it really relevant and succinct. And in terms of social business, I think if Tom's Shoes were to plant a tree every time you bought a pair of shoes, the message might not be as relatable as if you're buying a pair of shoes for someone in need. Now, I know there's a lot of also viewing different viewpoints on Tom's Shoes as an example. I can see someone in the chat was posting a video there about a bit of a different viewpoint on Tom's, but we're merely using it as an example of how you can shape a social business model and how you can add value to what you're doing. So definitely, I would advise that you keep your social business idea and impact very similar so that your consumers can also feel the impact and see it much better. It makes the whole message more aligned.
Absolutely. And also coming back a little bit to the example of Tom's, of course, it's not only important to measure where you have a positive social impact, but very often, if you're positively like impacting one of the SDG goals, you're maybe negatively impacting another one. So it's always important to not only look about the positive impact you make, but also be aware of the negative, or rather like not so positive impact you make. So here it's really important to not, you know, use it as a marketing tool and to not say we are perfect and we are doing everything right. It's more about being transparent, showing that you're trying your best, that you're really trying hard to reach a positive impact. But of course, you cannot change everything at once. There is most of the times there's an unintended or negative impact as well.
Brilliant. So I'm conscious we only have 4 minutes left, and there is another question I noticed we didn't answer, so I'm going to go back to that. But before we finish on the last question, I just want to first of all say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Please remember that you can join our LinkedIn group. To do so, there is a link now in the comments for you. So if you simply click on that link, you can come and join our LinkedIn group. And there we'll be continuing this discussion. We'll probably be sharing some of the content from today and elaborating on it. And we're also more than happy to elaborate or provide you with anything that you found interesting today. So please do let us know. As I mentioned earlier, these webinars are all about us helping you during this time and showing you what we have to offer as well. In terms of the next webinar as well, we've got another one next Tuesday on the 14th of April, which is going to be all about ideation during challenging times, and that's from 4 till 5 p.m. We highly recommend you join for that one too. It'll be some nice live ideation with some of our other team. So yeah, from our side, thank you again for joining. We're going to continue with the last question. If you have any more questions, please put them in the chat. We'll also be getting in touch via email after, so you'll have our contact details. And yeah, don't know if Verena, you have any final comments to add from your side?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Perfect. So the question I noticed that we missed was, did you see any other examples in the financial industry? And that's from Catalan. There are a lot of examples in the financial industry. I'll let Verena answer this one because we recently did a project for a huge financial company in the area of social impact. So I'll let her take over.
Exactly. So we really see a clear shift of financial, like companies in the financial industry as well, going into more into the direction of social impact. So last year, for example, we did a project with Visa, and they were looking for startups in the area of social impact specifically. we see especially there are a lot of startups tackling, let's say, problems, problems in the financial industry. So, for example, and really cool startup from Europe is the Tomorrow Bank. Maybe some of you know it. It's a little bit similar, let's call it a little bit similar to N26. So it's also a digital bank, but they're really only putting money into, or like if you have your money on the bank account on the Tomorrow Bank, they're only investing this money into sustainable companies. So they're not investing the money into a coal company, for example, or a company producing guns or something like this. So they really have a guidebook of ethics, and they don't invest in the money you give them basically into one of those like blacklisted areas, let's call it that way. So this is a really nice example of how the financial industry also shifts a little bit more into the social impact and sustainability area, because if it's just important to imagine that if all the companies who are not having a positive impact in the world, let's frame it that way, if all those companies do not have access to money anymore, if they don't get any credits anymore from their banks, then they also have to rethink a little bit what they're doing and which impact they're creating. So in this way, you can kind of force them to also initiate a little bit of a shift. And that's what we're seeing quite strongly in the financial industry.
Perfect. So I hope that answered your question, Marilena. Perfect. So before we close the session, I also just want to mention one last thing. We will be sending out a feedback link to see what you thought of our session today. You know, we're always looking to improve and make things better. So please do let us know your feedback. And thank you so much for joining us. We hope we gave you some food for thought. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you all becoming the corporate social innovators of the future. And we wish you all a lovely rest of the afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for attending and have a good time. And maybe let's connect on LinkedIn.
Yes, LinkedIn.